The time by Carrie Chris is 6 p.m. Time for CBX Business News. The Business News headlines is brought to you by CBX Wealth Management, making more possible.
Fiscal discipline, regional reset, and a global EV power shift. Good evening. It's Friday, January 2, 2026. Welcome to the first CBX Business News broadcast of the new year. I'm Rochelle Moncrief. Thanks for joining us. As businesses, markets, and policymakers return from the holiday break, 2026 is officially underway. And this evening, we're tracking the first economic signals of the new year. Coming up, Jamaica's government is reaffirming its commitment to fiscal discipline, even as a major reconstruction push adds pressure to public debt. Also ahead, Barbados maps its next economic phase as Prime Minister Motley lays out the BERT 3.0 framework and what it means for stability and growth. And later, a shift in the global auto industry as Chinese EV maker BYD overtakes Tesla in worldwide sales. Stay with us as we unpack these stories and more right after the break.
Wealth is not simply counted in dollars or cents, but in the time we spend with love, in love, giving love. Wealth is not simply a means to an end. It is the means to live out loud. Wealth is more than money. It's about family, the memories you create, the legacy you leave behind, and your ability to enjoy life in the moment. It's also about seeing the CBX possibilities and seizing investment opportunities to achieve the future you want and deserve. Which is why CBX Wealth will focus on your investments so you can experience more. Because true wealth is truly more. To start investing today, call 876-926-7767.
The local news is brought to you by Darriman Trading, better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean flavors and fragrances, tease the senses, and Pulse Investments.
Welcome back to CBX Business News. We begin with a critical signal to investors as Jamaica enters 2026. Jamaica's government is making a bold statement to investors, noting that the country's fiscal discipline will hold even as the country moves into a debt-heavy reconstruction phase following Hurricane Melissa. In a critical reassurance to markets, the administration acknowledged that rebuilding efforts will push public debt higher, but insists that every dollar borrowed will be tightly managed, growth-inducing, and anchored in long-term economic recovery. That assurance was given by Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness in his New Year's Day message on Wednesday.
Economic foundation laid by my administration, we have secured over US $6.7 billion in multilateral support for reconstruction and resilience. While this crisis will necessarily increase our debt, we will continue to be frugal and fiscally conservative. Every dollar spent will be geared towards inducing growth, restoring lost jobs, and recovering economic output in the shortest possible time.
And beyond the balance sheet, the government is pointing to improving public safety as a critical part of Jamaica's economic reset. Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness is reporting that murders fell by 42% in 2025, marking the lowest level in more than 3 decades. For businesses, the improvement is more than a social milestone. It directly affects Jamaica's investment risk profile. A decline in violent crime strengthens Jamaica's investment climate by lowering business operating costs, improving workforce stability, and easing investor concerns. It also supports tourism recovery by boosting visitor confidence and encouraging hotel and resort investments after Hurricane Melissa. For capital markets, improved security reduces Jamaica's risk premium, making investments more bankable and enhancing the country's credibility with lenders, insurers, and international partners.
For more than 40 years, our nation struggled with an epidemic of violence, both organized violence by criminal gangs and social violence across the society. Entire communities were captured and terrorized. Your government responded with Plan Secure Jamaica, transforming and expanding the JCF and the JDF, creating MOCA, tripling the security budget, and implementing states of public emergency and zones of special operations. We can now claim the 3rd consecutive year of decline in murders. 8% in 2023, 19% in 2024, and 42% in 2025.
Prime Minister Holness says murders in Jamaica have fallen to their lowest level in 31 years.
Though approximately 670 Jamaicans were murdered last year, still far too many, we give thanks for the more than 470 lives spared compared to 2024. This is the lowest number of murders in 31 years and well below the psychological barrier of 1,000.
That was Prime Minister of Jamaica, Dr. Andrew Holness. Jamaica's post-hurricane rebuilding will not simply test the country's construction capacity, it will test financial discipline under pressure. As billions of dollars in relief and reconstruction funding begin to move through the economy, the parliamentary opposition says every dollar will be closely watched. In his New Year's message, opposition leader Mark Golding made it clear that Jamaica's recovery will not be driven by speed alone, but by scrutiny in how public funds are spent.
As 2026 unfolds, we will remain steadfast in our role, standing with the people and advocating tirelessly on their behalf. We will continue to push for clarity and fairness in the distribution of hurricane relief and support for rebuilding. We will continue to demand transparency and accountability in the use of precious resources for recovery.
But beyond the numbers, Golding says the economic strain is still being felt in fields, shops, and marketplaces.
We will continue to demand decisive action to restore hospitals, schools, vital infrastructure, and damaged communities. We will continue to advocate for farmers whose crops, livestock, and poultry were destroyed, for thousands of small businesses now struggling to reopen, and for the stricken families in need of support.
That was Jamaica's opposition leader, Mark Golding. In other news, the Bank of Jamaica BOJ has stepped in once again to shield Jamaica's payment system from disruption, extending its temporary waiver on penalty charges tied to high-value electronic transactions. In a public advisory issued on December 31, the central bank confirmed that the Jamaican $5,000 penalty charge applied to automated clearinghouse ACH transactions at or above 1 million Jamaican dollars will now remain suspended until January 16, 2026, 2 weeks longer than originally planned. The extension follows representations from deposit-taking institutions, some of which continue to grapple with internal processing challenges that have delayed the timely crediting of customer accounts. Critically, the bank says the decision is about is about more than customer relief. It is about system stability. And staying with developments impacting the financial system, the Bank of Jamaica has released its latest currency updates. In Friday's currency trading session, the US dollar is selling for $159.47, the Canadian for $116.36, the pound sterling for $213.06, and the going rate for the euro is $185.87. We move to the latest updates from the JSE equities. In Friday's trading session, the JSE market activity resulted in the trading of 106 stocks, of which 50 advanced, 37 declined, and 19 traded firm. Leading today's winners are West Indies Petroleum Terminal, Caribbean Assurance Brokers, MFS Capital Partners, and 138 Student Living Jamaica Variable Preference, while leading the losers are Berger Paints Jamaica, Dollar Financial Services, Iron Rock Insurance Company, and Supreme Ventures. Trading activity resulted in the following movements of the JSE indices. The main index advanced by 1,497.05 points to close at 319,483.93 points. The junior market index, however, declined by 19.54 points to close at 3,381.87 points.
And it's time for Market Education Feature, brought to you by CariCris, Regional Ratings, Global Standard.
In today's Market Education Feature, we're defining a dealer market. A dealer market is a financial market where multiple dealers quote the prices at which they are willing to buy or sell a security. These dealers act as market makers, posting both a bid price to buy and an offer price to sell, helping improve liquidity and price transparency. Dealer markets are commonly used for trading bonds and foreign currencies. One of the most well-known equity markets that operates under the model is NASDAQ, where trading is driven by competing dealers rather than a single centralized exchange.
The Market Education Feature was brought to you by CariCris, Regional Ratings, Global Standards.
And that's it for the local news segment. Please stay with us. The regional news is up next.
The local news is brought to you by Diamond Trading, better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean flavors and fragrances, tease the senses, and Pulse Investments.
Are so much book you need for high school?
I'll show you how to make sure you have all the money for my books and even some extra. It's called budgeting, Dad. Making a budget is the most important thing you can do to track your money. It keeps a record of how much you make, how much you spend, where you spend it, and most importantly, how much you can save. Write down all your income, write down all your expenses, see where you can cut down and allot more money to more important things, like saving.
Welcome back. And now for the regional business news. In a bid to bolster fiscal strength and economic resilience, Barbados is signaling its next phase of economic policy direction. Prime Minister Mia Mottley has set out the broad framework for BERT 3.0, the upcoming phase of the country's economic recovery and transformation agenda. The strategy is designed to strengthen public finances, improve competitiveness, and position the economy for long-term growth as Barbados navigates climate risk, global supply chain disruptions, and a tighter international financing environment.
We will now be introducing BERT 3.0 to enhance our competitiveness as a nation, as we know that visitors and investors have choices. And as a small open economy, we cannot survive or thrive on our own resources alone. In these uncertain and challenging times internationally, as I've said before many times, we will seek to keep the IMF on speed dial, but we will equally be resting, as I said, on BERT 3.0. With respect to tourism, we kept it moving forward through major modernization and expansion, with new and upgraded product coming on stream, including Hotel Indigo opening in mid-January 2026, alongside other major projects that are now being built and in advanced planning. Existing hotels took the opportunity to refurbish and to refresh their look. I've been told that there's never been more tourism construction at any one time in this country's history.
In her New Year address, Mottley says the Barbadian economy is entering 2026 from a position of greater strength, pointing to improved fiscal performance, higher wages, and sustained capital investment.
There's still more to come in this year, 2026. We also advanced serious legislative reforms to strengthen our fight against crime in this country, including legislation to provide witness anonymity and to reform our juries, and equally to support generally the administration of justice. And yes, we continue to strengthen our fiscal position, healthy as it is now. Why? Because we successfully completed our BERT 1 and BERT 2 program and our second IMF program, the Extended Fund Facility, securing the final disbursements of it and closing that chapter of economic reform with greater policy space and greater confidence in the Barbados economy.
That was Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Mottley. Guyana's economic expansion is being underpinned by macro-fiscal stability, prudent budget management, and incentive frameworks designed to lower entry barriers for both foreign and domestic investors. That assessment comes from President Dr. Irfan Ali, who has described 2025 as a pivotal year for economic transformation, marked by accelerating investment inflows, disciplined fiscal oversight, and a deliberate push to diversify the economy beyond oil. Speaking during his year-end review interview, President Ali says the government is intensifying public-private partnerships, positioning Guyana as a competitive destination for investment across several sectors.
Their salary income would have been servicing the home loan. This new revenue stream that came into that family is now servicing the home loan. What that does is that it increases the propensity to save. And what it allows now is for the family to have expanded loans. So what you see is in the banking system itself, a number of low-income families who own homes are now applying to refinance their homes because of the valuation of the homes. The value of the homes would have increased. And they're using that refinancing to invest in small businesses.
That was President of Guyana, Dr. Irfan Ali. In other news, the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago, CBTT, has maintained its key repo rate at 3.50%, citing subdued inflation, softening non-energy activity, and heightened global and regional uncertainty. In its monetary policy announcement released on December 31, 2025, the central bank noted that global economic growth remains modest as persistent geopolitical tensions and trade policy uncertainty continue to dampen activity. The International Monetary Fund projects world output to expand by 3.2% in 2025, while international energy prices eased, with crude oil averaging below $60 per barrel and natural gas prices continuing to soften. Domestically, the energy sector recorded a rebound in mid-2025, supported by first gas from new offshore fields. Meanwhile, inflation continues to remain well contained. Headline inflation stood at 0.5% in November 2025, with core inflation also at 0.5%, supported by lower food prices and limited weather-related disruptions. Now, a check on today's market action on the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 19 securities, of which 8 advanced, 2 declined, and 9 traded firm. Leading today's winners are LJ Williams B, Prestige Holdings, Trinidad Cement, and Republic Financial Holdings, while leading the losers are Unilever Caribbean and Grace Kennedy. Trading activity resulted in the following movements of the TTSE indices. The All-TNT Index advanced by 8.27 points or 0.60% to close at 1,379.17. The Composite Index advanced by 4.20 points or 0.44% to close at 950.66. The Cross-Listed Index declined by 0.03 points or 0.04% to close at 68.85. The SME Index remained at 94.06. And we take a short break, but please do stay with us. The international news segment is up next.
Kingston, Jamaica is a place to be in January 2026 for the 21st staging of the Regional Investment and Capital Market Conference that will be hosted by the Jamaica Stock Exchange at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel. We invite you to join us as we bring together government leaders, issuers, investors, and potential investors for 3 days of insightful presentations and discussions. Register now. Seats are limited. Call 876-967-3271 or visit jamstockx.com.
I'm trading stocks to achieve my financial goals.
I'm also trading stocks to achieve my financial goals.
Start a conversation with the Jamaica Stock Exchange.
Check jamstockx.com for information and a list of registered stockbrokers. You can also call the Jamaica Stock Exchange at 876-967-3271 for information on how to begin. I am achieving my financial goals.
I'm achieving my financial goals.
Welcome back. In international news, Chinese automaker BYD has taken over U.S. rival Tesla to become the world's largest seller of electric vehicles on a calendar year basis, underscoring a dramatic shift in global EV leadership. BYD says sales of its battery-powered vehicles rose nearly 28% in 2025, reaching 2.26 million units. That puts the Shenzhen-based company ahead of Tesla, which reported 1.64 million vehicle deliveries for the year. an 8% decline from 2024 and its second consecutive annual drop. The milestone caps a remarkable turnaround for BYD, a company Elon Musk once publicly dismissed. In a 2011 interview, Musk laughed at the suggestion that BYD could compete with Tesla, saying he did not view its products as strong. Tesla also reported weaker fourth-quarter deliveries, down about 16% year-on-year, reflecting softer demand and intensifying competition, particularly from Chinese manufacturers. Staying with global markets, where artificial intelligence is now driving the next phase of capital raising. Analysts say the AI revolution could spark a renewed boom in initial public offerings, with some of the world's most valuable private companies potentially heading to public markets in 2026. Firms such as SpaceX, xAI, Anthropic, OpenAI and Databricks are being flagged as likely candidates as they seek funding to support capital-intensive AI investments and compete with established giants like NVIDIA, Microsoft, and Alphabet. According to Renaissance Capital, the IPO market rebounded strongly in 2025, with 202 companies going public, a 35% increase from the previous year, raising a combined $44 billion. While some high-profile listings struggled after debuting, others, including medical supplier Medline, delivered strong post-IPO gains, boosting confidence among private equity-backed companies. Meanwhile, European stocks opened the year on a confident note. Britain's FTSE 100 briefly crossed the symbolic 10,000-point level for the first time, before easing back to close the day slightly higher at just under 9,951. The move extends gains from a strong 2025 and reflects broad-based optimism across European markets as investors returned from the New Year holiday. The Pan-European Stock 600 index closed about 0.6% higher, with banking, defense, mining, and semiconductor stocks leading gains. Shares in ASML, Europe's most valuable company, jumped sharply alongside other chip-related names. Analysts caution, however, that while round number milestones are psychologically important, sustained gains will depend on earning growth and economic fundamentals rather than sentiment alone. And finally, to a major leadership shakeup in the U.S. luxury retail market. Saks Global has named a new chief executive as the luxury retailer is reportedly preparing to file for bankruptcy protection. The privately held parent of Saks Fifth Avenue said Executive Chairman Richard Baker will assume the CEO role while retaining his current position. Longtime executive Mark Metrick is departing after more than 3 decades with the company. The move comes as Saks Global is reported to have missed a debt payment linked to its 2024 acquisition of Neiman Marcus, a deal that created a luxury retail group spanning Saks Fifth Avenue, Saks off Fifth, Neiman Marcus, and Bergdorf Goodman. In recent months, the company has taken steps to shore up liquidity, including asset sales and a debt restructuring completed last year. And that's it for the international segment of the newscast. The news recap is coming up on the other side of the break.
It feels so good right now.
And now to recap our top stories. In the local news, Jamaica's government reaffirms fiscal discipline amid rebuild spending. Regionally, Barbados maps next economic phase with BERT 3.0 framework. And internationally, BYD overtakes Tesla as world's top EV seller, marking a global power shift. Those are the stories setting the business agenda as 2026 gets underway. On behalf of the entire production team, I am Rachelle Moncrief. Thanks for watching CBX, your region, your business, your source.